Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good day. Trying to figure out which one works. I want to thank you for joining me today on this week's Friday Soul Call. And as we move forward, let me just tell you a little bit about Friday Soul Call. First of all, Friday is the end of the week and the beginning of the weekend. So I think it's a very good opportunity to want to deal with your soul. You've had a tough time, or you've had a great time, or you have a great weekend plan, or you have one that you're not especially looking forward to. The purpose of Friday Soul Call is to do what it says: roll call your soul. Deal with some things that you really wish you could, but in a way that shares with others, because that's the most important thing. This is not public because of anything more than sharing and helping others. And when you surf the internet, you see all over the web people are trying to help others benefit from their experiences, to get some guidance, or maybe even to prevent some things that they've gone through that they would love not to ever let happen to anyone else. So Friday Soul Call is about all of those things, but it gives you an opportunity to get some things off of your chest, to give your soul some focused attention on an issue that keeps nagging you or keeps recycling your experiences. And it then, and secondarily, allows you to share what you learned, what you lived, and what you learned from it, so that you can be a blessing and you can be some kind of a guidance to others. So that's what Friday Soul Call is all about. And today I'm excited because we have Angela with us today. Angela has some unique things, and I want to tell you, before we get started, it's the right season for it. So before we get started, don't hit your phone, say, hey, we have something very unique for you today and very relevant and pertinent for the hour. So Angela, I'm going to ask you to greet our audience and introduce yourself, and then tell us why we're talking today.
Well, hello, family. My name is Angela Warren, and I am from Kansas, and I love my church, and I love Dr. Price, and I'm here today to get my soul free.
And so, to get your soul free from what? Because we talked to you, let me know, but they would love to know what it is. Now, I promise you, many of you are going to write Angela when this is over and thank her again and again for what we're about to work through in this week's Friday Soul Call.
So in 1993, I was very promiscuous, and I had an abortion, and I was very um, distraught. Um, didn't have godly counsel and didn't have any advice. And so I just made the decision to abort a child, which now I know, being here, that I killed a generation.
Mm, wow. So what's the impact of that? I killed a generation. What is the soul impact of that?
I feel very empty inside, like there's something missing. And I know it's because I separated myself from God at that time. And
So you were raised Christian?
yes, ma'am.
Church girl or real Christian?
Yes, ma'am. Church girl.
Church girl. Okay.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
because the other side came later, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about this abortion. Let's talk about what was going on in your life and what made you decide that an abortion was the best thing for you. Now, I understand that, it's culture, back then, though, it wasn't really culture like it is today. So let's talk a little bit about what was going on with you, and also about the father of this child.
So I was married to my first husband, and he had went to jail, and I was, like I said, being promiscuous, still flirting back and forth with my daughter's dad, and went back and forth with both of them. Actually, both of them were in jail,
Hmm.
and
But you sure pick them to stay with you, don't you, girl?
I,
Forgive me.
I know, I
I was
know.
thinking, okay.
Yes, no,
So you didn't want anybody to hang around for much, huh?
not right next to me, maybe far away, but yes, ma'am. So I was going back and forth with both of them, and I really didn't know which one was the dad.
Mm.
So I ultimately made the decision to get the abortion. I told my husband it was his, and the one my daughter's dad, he didn't believe it was his. So I just made that decision because I was ashamed of
Hmm.
the outcome.
Isn't that funny about abortion, though? You make the decision to take a life, and you know it's really shameful, and you know it's not a good decision. What convinced you to do it? Because I know if you were a church girl, there was some ambivalence there. That you were a little bit back and forth. What convinced you?
Well, I had my first child, and I was by myself, and I
Hmm.
was struggling, and I didn't want that struggle, even though I was struggling anyway. So I don't know, the struggle wouldn't have been any different, but
Mm.
I just didn't want that struggle, and I didn't want, so they would have been like a year and a half apart, and I just didn't want that. But then I turned around and got pregnant again, so that was just really just
So why weren't you on birth control? I want to talk about that. First of all, your daughter, that was your firstborn, is that right?
my son.
My son. Okay, so your firstborn is a son,
Mhm.
and your son is alive and doing well at this time.
He's incarcerated.
Okay. Well, we certainly need to break the seal on that one.
Yes, ma'am.
But so he's incarcerated like his dad. It's almost like that thing traveled down the line.
His dad is passed away.
Okay, his dad passed away. He's incarcerated. The stepdad is in jail,
Yes.
and then the love interest is in the jail.
Yes.
Okay, so you do realize that, boy, we probably gonna need a few Fridays with you, sis.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, whoo, talk about Friday soul call.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to go back though. Can I go back to now? You're church girl.
Yes.
So let's talk about how this church girl got caught up in this promiscuity. What was it that you didn't feel you were learning from church about the Lord that let you feel that was okay?
I think I was just going because I lived with my grandmother, and in order for me to stay the night with her on the
Hmm.
weekend stuff, I had to go to church, which I didn't mind going to church. I loved going to church, but I don't think I was really absorbing
Hmm.
the church aspect of my
Hmm.
life. And so when I was 16, I actually snuck out of church, went around the corner with a guy,
Okay.
and yeah.
So let's talk about that. What type of you were? What type of home environment lent itself to that type of behavior? For example, were your parents together? Were they not together? Were your parents, was either one of them promiscuous? Did you have a lot of in and out relationships? What was it?
So my mom and dad got divorced when I was, well, actually they were divorced when I was born, but my dad tried to keep us together as a family, and then we moved to Germany, came back, and so I was just living with my mom and my other three siblings. Um, 16 was my high school years, and so I didn't really want to walk down this long street where I lived to catch the bus. So my grandmother said I could stay with her because she
Okay.
lived right on the bus line. So I could catch the bus to school. So I ended up staying with her. But before that,
Hmm.
I seen a lot of men in and out.
Of families, yeah, of your mom's house.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I brought that up is because it's very difficult for a child to see that kind of sexual traffic in the home and believe that anything's wrong with doing the same thing. It's almost like those were your formative years. Okay. And so, in those years, while you were becoming a young woman, in your mind, that was life as usual, would you say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, how did that feed into you, A, getting married, then becoming the girlfriend of this one, and then the girlfriend of someone else? Is
So
it because of that, would you say?
so in seventh grade, I had what I thought was the love of my life, and he cheated on me
In
like
seventh grade.
in seventh grade,
Okay.
eighth,
Oh,
eighth, eighth grade.
oh, oh,
He
yeah,
was in
that's
ninth grade. I was in eighth grade.
okay.
So but he had went on to high school, and so I just thought I was just the world was over because
Hmm.
he cheated on me. I still stayed with him, and then he went to the military. He came back and heard that I had been messing around with somebody else, and so then he just kind of, we were supposed to get married.
But how old were you at this time?
Um, 10th, 11th grade, we kind of in and out relationship with this
Okay.
guy until he went to the military. We were supposed to get married, And then after he had heard that I was messing around with somebody else, then he called off the wedding. And so I think that that thought of me being married at that time, it just kept playing over and over. And I ended up marrying this guy. But before him, I was supposed to get married to my son's dad, and he passed away. And a year later is when I married my first husband.
So, in your mind, growing up, you really didn't like all of that traffic in your house, and you kind of imagined marriage being the end of it. Is that a possibility?
Yes, ma'am.
So, because when you were looking at that, you're thinking, if you're saying marriage was in your brain, then obviously somewhere it came up in your soul that I don't want to be that. I don't want to have that many people in my life and that many people like that. So, in your mind, you saw marriage as a permanent answer at seventh, eighth, ninth grade.
Yes.
Okay. And so while you were having these relationships at such a, I mean, you're in your pubescent years. I mean, this is literally pubescent years. What was your mom's attitude? Where was she in all of this?
I didn't really, like I said, I didn't spend time with my mom.
So it was the grandma,
It was my grandma.
and you just pulled it over on Granny.
Yeah, I pulled
Okay.
the wool over her eyes.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah.
All right, but that's normal. That is not something that's abnormal. So now let's fast forward to you have a son,
Mhm.
and then you said you had another pregnancy.
Mhm.
Which happened to that?
That's the one that I aborted.
That's the
right
one,
after
and then
him.
you had one afterwards.
Yes.
And you had what, another baby?
I have one son and two daughters.
One son and two daughters. Great. It's interesting to hear you say that. So, who was it that helped you finalize the decision to abort your baby?
Actually, it was one of my girlfriends. She was telling me not to. My other girlfriend said if I wanted to do it, then she would take me because it was out. It was in Kansas City, and I didn't have a way there.
Because that's before all the abortion clinics and all of that got
Yes,
really going well.
Yes, ma'am. And so it was maybe 2 or 3 days. We went back and forth, back and forth. I probably was like at 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just feeling really like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I can't wait too much longer to have the abortion. And so,
yeah, because back then you had to do it within a window.
Yes, ma'am.
You know.
And so then my love interest gave me the money to get the abortion, and then my friend took me.
So how did he feel about it? Did he agree with you getting an abortion? Well, he didn't think it was his anyway, so
he didn't. He was okay with it because he gave me the money for the abortion and the divorce.
Oh, because you were married to him?
No, I was married to my first husband.
So he paid for divorce. So I'm trying to be very poised. So you were just in a really bad mental and solical state. I mean, I can't imagine what your thought life was like, and that, your thought talk, that must have been really crazy for you to think about it. Or was it just in your mind because that's how you grew up? It's just what to you, it was just life.
To me, it was just life.
So he gives you the money to have the abortion, and you go to have the abortion, and your friend is taking you, and you have no thoughts about it all. You have no qualms about what you're getting ready to do.
I cried all the way there. I cried during. I cried after, but I still kept going.
Okay, so why were you crying on the way? Did you feel like it shouldn't be done, or that you shouldn't be in this predicament?
I shouldn't have been in that predicament.
So you really didn't have any regret about the abortion per se?
I did, because I knew it wasn't right. But I was more prideful. I was worried about what other people would say if they knew that she had a baby by this guy or this guy she didn't know, and I was always worried about other people.
So am I to understand this was like a one night stand? Or
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Well, that's common. I mean, that's the world we live in today, where lives are lost and destroyed just for momentary experience. So you really didn't have a relationship with this man, or did you continue relationship after you had the abortion?
With the love interest?
Yeah.
Well, I actually was with him in 4th grade.
So were you okay? So let's go back. So when were you? When did you start having sex?
16.
16. So all of these other things were just fantasy relationships, just making pretending that we're going to do all of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So did you have an aunt or anybody that could mentor you or speak to you about any of this?
No, ma'am.
So are you an only child?
No, ma'am. I have 3 siblings.
You have three siblings, but
I'm the baby.
you're the baby. So they were off and grown, and you obviously didn't have a relationship with them. Is that true?
True.
Wow. Because the reason I'm asking you is that you are epitomizing, certainly demonstrating our whole culture and all of those things that people who are not up close and personal with such people and such experiences, or the people who are suffering, like the kids who are suffering. You think about these kids in school today. I mean, you can understand them. You understand them. What do you think about them? For example, being forced to learn sex and all of those things in school. What are your thoughts about that as you think back to your young years?
I'm just very saddened that they have to go through that, but I would like for them to be able to, at age appropriate, learn that that's not the way to go,
Hmm.
and the right way to go about having sex, which is marriage,
Hmm.
and not before then. So I really, really don't want the children to be having sex and going through that.
But you understand.
Yes, ma'am.
What if you were going to make a statement? What would be your statement on your mom's lifestyle and its contribution to where you are, even to what got you to that place?
I would say that that there was no parenting skills there, and maybe that's because she didn't have it,
Hmm.
and she
She
probably
didn't.
has
You
been.
didn't because your grandma, was it her mom you stayed with or
My dad's
your
mom.
dad's mom? Okay. So did you meet her mom?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So in your mind, because she didn't have it, you think that.
She wasn't able to give me what she didn't have.
So did she talk to you about all of the male friends that she had?
No.
They just came and went.
Hmm. She kind of came and went. She bowled on Friday night, so we was over my grandma's on Fridays, and then she didn't really spend time with us.
Hmm. She didn't want to be a mom. She was still a teen herself in her heart
Yes,
and in her
ma'am.
mind. And obviously, that was probably not a healthy way. We have to wrap it up. But I want to come back. I think we have to go back and talk about the day of the abortion from that day and why it's bothering you now.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll come back.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Hey, thank you for joining us on this week's Friday Soul Call. We're talking to Angela, who had an abortion in 1993. And I think in the wake of Roe v. Wade, I think it's very interesting, certainly fortuitous, that we're talking about it now. And we're bringing it out because not everybody who had an abortion is happy with that decision. And when we come back next time with Angela, we're going to dig a little bit into how her emotions reacted to her decisions. Until then, have a great week and join us again on Friday Soul Call.